All right, welcome everybody to SolarConnect. We're excited to have Summit Energy on today, one of our partners on Enerflo, and we know they run a great business. Excited to learn more about them. And our focus today is going to be on battery storage to keep that conversation going from many different announcements and marketing we've done around batteries. Spencer, you want to add anything to that?
I'm excited to be here with Sid and Thomas. So let's get this show on the road.
All right, so on our side, Pat and Spencer, co-founders of Enerflo. I'm excited to be on with Sid and Thomas. You guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know what you go over there.
Sure. This is Sid from Summit. I'm the Senior Director of Engineering at Summit. Been with Summit since 2018. Summit started in 2016. Joined these guys earlier in the road trip to where we are right now. Here at Summit, I oversee engineering, permitting, inspection, a little bit of funding, commercial side a little bit here and there. Mostly on the engineering and technical side is what I focus on. And I work with Thomas here from business development team. And we always huddle up on the new technology, especially batteries, the field side of things, installations and incentives, and so many things about solar and ESS. We both go back and forth on the new technology, but that's me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Proud.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Thomas. Thanks for having us, Spencer, Pat. My role here at Summit is the business development leader. And what I do, I'm a new member to the team. I haven't summited as long as Sid or the rest of the crew, but I've been in the industry since about 2013 in a variety of ways, starting with surveying homes, getting dirty, doing construction, learning all about sales, really becoming an operations leader, everything from install to service. And I've been here at Summit for a year and a half, but I've probably got 350 batteries under my belt in the last 3-4 years. What I like to do is I like to push the envelope, and I'm always pushing the teams to come up with creative, simple solutions to deploy things. And I'm like a surgical knife. I'm able to go all over the company, look at different processes, look at different things from a technology, from an operations, from a field execution. So I've always been a guy that bridges the gap between sales and operations to make sure we're one unified force and we're getting the end result to the customer. Happy to be here, and thanks for having us.
That's awesome.
Great.
So before we dive into batteries, we'd love to learn a little bit more about the Summit story, maybe where the name came from, where you guys, what your mantra, what you believe in, how you value your customers. Just give us the background there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having us today, Pat and Spence. The history about Summit. So Summit started its journey in 2016, where Eric Israelson and Dallin Ma, co-founders. So they initially were Dallin was in Utah, Eric was in New England, Massachusetts. But then the story from Dallin is Utah had an amazing net metering policy, but then it stopped in late for 2015. So then he moved his base to Massachusetts with Eric, and that's where our initial head office was Weymouth, probably, I don't know, 1,500 square feet office. We all were crammed in, 7 of us in 2018. The primary bread and butter is still residential, solar, rooftop ground mount, plus battery. And we also have a commercial division where Thomas and we work closely on the products, the design, the engineering, and the installation part of it, also the commissioning side of it. But yeah, it's into probably our 8 years of the journey. I think we have well over 6,000 residential customers and above 200 commercial customers, and around 2 megawatt hours or 2,000 kWh of batteries already installed and commissioned, up and running since 2019. Really focused on what we do here at Summit. Our mission is to empower and elevate people for a better tomorrow. So empower and elevate is what we do. We educate our customers, internal and external, the solar guides, our team members, colleagues, our customers. We educate them, we empower them to make those decisions. So as we say that we don't sell systems, we help our customers to buy the systems and show them what the advantages are on going green, what are the true savings and how do they see that, how can they monitor it, how can we make it transparent for them to be visible throughout the journey, because solar system is something, after probably buying a house, is the second biggest investment, and at least going to be there on the house for 10 or 15 years or even 25 years till they reside, but solar can go up to 35 years, right? So our goal there is to have them answer all their questions even before they come up with anything, right? To make sure they have enough ammo to basically what to expect from the system, the savings and side of things. So our goal is to ensure we give them a best customer experience, educate them, and answer any of the questions. So once Summit customer, it's always our customer. So it's not like after installation, it's we break the relationship. That's when our relationship actually starts, is after installation and after commissioning. And Thomas can walk over the service side of things, which we have an amazing team. Even we service our customers. I think when we install like a few customers in 2018, 19, we still service them. We are in good relationship with them. They referred us with many batteries and residential projects. And so that's
Yeah.
how we still keep ties with all our customers.
Yeah,
That's cool.
to further add a little bit to
Go ahead.
that, the company, Eric and Dallin, worked for a few different other solar companies, and the real reason they founded the company was because they just looked at these other companies and they thought they could do it better. As soon as these companies got to scale, they, to be unnamed, we'll just say that, they just figured that they started to get lost in the mix. The customer started to sacrifice, the sales rep started to sacrifice. But the true reason Summit was founded was because they knew that if they cared about people, if we cared about people, people are the one resource that we put all our stock into. And they're the ones who are going to inevitably make this stuff great, make the experiences great. So the whole mission, we empower and elevate people, is we believe in people. We're encouraging them every day. We're fostering their learning. And that's a big part of what Sid and I do here, what Eric and Dallin, the founders, do here. Everybody. We believe in that mission, and the people all rise together. So that's just another little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, even the title of Eric and Dallin, it is so people-centric company. They're both CEOs, basically Chief Elevate Officer and Chief Empower Officer. That's just to show how we are people-centric. Yeah.
That's really cool. I have a couple of threads I want to pull on there. You guys talk about, I've heard other people say this, but I'd love to get it in your guys' own vernacular. When you say we don't sell systems, we try to help people buy systems. What do you mean by that?
Good question. Basically, the tools that we use, right? Enerflo helps us provide a transparent proposal, a transparent numbers before and post solar, cost of doing nothing, and then post going solar. So it's all about the numbers and true savings, right? What incentives are available in the market. So we educate people on what incentives they get after going solar and what benefits and true savings they would get for the entire like 30 years, the full term of the solar system. So we educate them to make those decisions, and we give them enough ammo, and tools like Enerflo and other design tools really help us to give them the shading information, the system losses, the production simulation models and stuff like that. So we educate them and we provide them with all the information that we can get based on our experience in this industry to help customers make the decisions.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a lot more questions, but I know we want to get to batteries in a second. But
Go in. I'll skip my answer and you can go.
No, Thomas, go ahead. Do your answer. And then, because my question goes past that one.
Yeah. So that question, I think one of the special sauces about Summit is that we have, at this point in our number of years of tenure, we're a premium provider. But because of the level of volume that we've gotten, we're able to provide such a premium offering, some things that cost far more for an entry-level installer to get into at the same or lower value than a lot of people in the industry. And we have such a diverse set of options, whether it be financing, flexibility with whatever homeowners really their end goal is. So on top of all of those things that Sid just said, the amount of flexibility and education that goes into just getting the right fit for a customer, we don't pressure people into sales. We give them the best options. Try not to give them over information because that can lead to death by confusion. But just that diverse platform of what we have at somebody's disposal, there's definitely an option for that will fit anybody's budget.
That's cool. What markets are you guys in?
We're in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, and a little bit of Pennsylvania right now.
PA. Cool.
PA, the good old PA.
Well, Pat.
No, the other thing I wanted to mention on that was our last podcast was actually about customer experience and owning that relationship for a long time, and how a lot of installers are short-sighted and they don't do much with that. And that's something that's baffled Spencer and I. You have such a high cost of acquisition to acquire a customer you can have for 25, 30 years. And a lot of installers don't find ways to monetize that, or maybe are short-sighted into just getting that sale and moving on to the next one instead of cultivating a relationship that can be really beneficial for both sides for a long time.
Pat, it's really hard to do, but it requires extreme focused, extreme ruthless cost savings and measures, because not a lot of people are planning for long term. We have an amazing relationship with Solar Insure, quick plug there, but we've got them setting a 30-year insurance policy so that we can service customers. We've developed a product that's a service plan that's of our own design so that people can get a monthly monitoring access and get reduced locked-in service rates. So even customers that we didn't install, we offer them this plan to try and create value that they don't have. We're even going after the real estate community so that if people walk into a home with solar, we can unbox that mystery and sell a system health check for them to go along with the buyer or seller's agent. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, and there's not a lot of money in it because everybody's already paid for solar. If they need to open their wallet to go fix it, it's a hard cost to swallow. So highly trained electricians, putting these quotes together is not great. It's a lot of bankruptcies in the industry. We're cleaning up a lot of messes. You have to, when you sell a job, you have to think about the end. And our end is not, hey, we're done, we're walking away, here's the taillight warranty.
Love that.
Yeah.
So-
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, how does storage and batteries play into a customer buying, number one, and versus being sold, and number two, maintaining and engendering that long-term relationship? Does it have a place in that?
It does. We're still unboxing what it means to us to provide that same long-term value. Solar is very much played out in a lot of different ways. We played this scenario and that scenario, and how do we make a warranty and reserve plan that will protect this asset for a long time? And there's not a lot of people owning battery assets in this residential market. It's the end consumer. So things that come into mind are like, are we going to have an emergency support hotline? Are people going to experience problems at the worst times of weather? Do we have trucks and support and all the things and the decisions that go in that you just don't think about? I'll go back and think more and just say this: product is super important to think up front. And unfortunately, the technology makes a huge impact on that long-term decision of how well that customer's experience is going to be for the long term, as well as how much of a liability the newer technology is going to be as far as what you're going to run into for service.
Yeah, it just seems, rewind a year and a half ago, no one was attaching batteries. Like, it was like a side novelty thing, right? You would attach batteries. The people that were really hardcore on battery, they were attaching it. And then you had an M3.0 and you had a bunch of other things that are happening in the industry. And now you're seeing a lot more focus on battery from from our side, panel manufacturers. Everybody's got a battery now. Everybody's got a battery. Everybody wants to get into PPP. Everybody wants to get into that whole world, but we're just at our infancy. So your comment struck a chord with me, because I'm like, we don't know yet a lot of these things. And so it's just like, how do you support it? How do you do this? And when you communicate with the consumer, like a year later, 2 years later, are you doing service calls? Are you checking up? Are you not? Especially if you're maintaining that relationship and it's pairing with other stuff. Are you going to put other products in their home that are going to interface with that battery and that battery's tech? Or are you going to put stuff that doesn't actually, that doesn't actually connect with it, but will pull power off of it? And how does that, there's so much unknown here. It's exciting to me. It's like you're exploring a whole new world. My little Star Trekky person came out right there, But it's
Yeah.
like you get out there and we can make this what we want in a way. There are some constraints, but it's solely up to us right now. The integrators, software providers, and the installers and the manufacturers. What does this homeowner's experience look like? Not just for the sale, because I think when we look at a continuum, like a solar renewable energy continuum, we look at lead generated, contract signed, and PTO. And that's all we look at. That really is just this portion of it. And there's this whole other piece of it that's huge. That's all about what's happening afterwards. The service, the warranties, the experience, the referrals, all of that stuff, offloading, microgrid. There's all kinds of things that can participate in this. I'm excited about it, and I love it when we have groups like Summit and others that are really dialed in and trying to think about that process, that experience, because we talk about customer experience a lot. I hear that word every day. Oh, we want to have a great customer experience. But I don't know if people equate that to what is the actual experience of the customer, not just at sale and at install, but what is their experience? And then what is that doing to the name of solar? Because those people, if they have a bad experience, it's going to make it way harder to get the next house to have solar and have batteries. And so as an industry, we need to make sure everybody's having those great experiences as well.
Yeah, totally. So maybe a good transition point would be, how has Summit had to adapt to the market and make storage really just part of your DNA? Because like what Spencer mentioned, I walked the floor at RE Plus a few months ago, and like literally every other booth was a battery manufacturer, apparently. And a lot of people white labeling stuff, whatever, but it's very saturated, very noisy. Either market conditions, rebates, other things have forced people into this. How have you guys seen the market change over the last few years, and what have you done to really adapt and embrace it and make it not just solar plus storage, but really like a whole home, package that you're offering now? Or how do you guys pitch that to the customer?
Yeah, to your point, Pat, compared to 2018 RE Plus or SPI back then to this year's RE Plus, you can see a major difference in number of booths, like quite a few hundred booths versus several thousand booths. And even the convention center was smaller this time, so they had to use different hotels nearby to have their auditoriums. But as far as Summit's mantra on ESS is basically, to Thomas's point, is product is important, but during the sale process, how are we educating our customers? How are we showing them what batteries and what type of batteries and how many batteries, what are essential loads, what are non-essential loads? How are we tackling that from the front end, right? Because any expectation that we set during sale or point of sale, that kind of carries throughout the journey of installation and after installation servicing maintenance as well, right? So here at Summit, working with, using different platforms, and this is something I've been hoping for to get very soon by some of the other design tool or even via Enerflo, is by adding non-essential loads. It shows customer the duration of the battery and tells them how many batteries that is required. Uh, because there's serious understanding difference between a generator and a battery from a customer standpoint, right? Yeah. So when you try to include battery into a solar deal, first of all, every solar sales person is right now do not want to jeopardize their solar deal just because they start talking about ESS. So jeopardizing the deal is a big thing in their mind. And if they're not comfortable from their mental standpoint, you see very less attachment, the ESS attachment rate. So I think we've identified that challenge, and we are, as an industry, we should be working towards it on basically providing those tools to make people feel comfortable talking about ESS and comfortable talking about any other adders to not just solar system. But we at Summit, I'm glad we got used to ESS. We were like the early adopters of the ESS when the DC couple, I can take the name, right? So Generac, when came in.
Yeah.
Right? We were early adopters of Generac even before like certain equipment were out. So we did projects out in Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, which worked really great. As far as from technology adoption standpoint, I think Summit is has a really good understanding. Like all of us has combined probably over 1,000+ years of experience. We have our master electrician who has 45 plus of experience electrical standpoint and 20 plus in solar. I think it's all about how we understand it, what tools we are using, and how are we uh, relating that, and how are we like presenting ourselves and educating customers. I think that's a big piece right now. Industry is facing a big challenge as far as ESS goes.
Yeah. I think the truth is it's not anywhere where it needs to be because there isn't a need in our market, right? There's a need in NEM 3.0. Now, storage pricing hasn't come down too much, where the dream is every single job should start with storage because we fundamentally have done this backwards, right? We never should have built a power grid that runs for miles and has inefficiencies to it and is just so old and needs repair, right? A home should have been built to generate its own power and have its own self-sustaining ecosystem. Now, this is the first time in history that technology actually makes this possible. You can create your own generation facility and only use what you need. This is how we used to do it back in off-grid design, right? If you can't generate enough on your home and build enough battery reservoir, you just simply didn't use the power. We're in a society of all these bells and whistles and all these things. The truth is, like, that thought gets put to the side. The way that this needs to go is that storage's pricing and the incentives don't change the solar return on investment, and the savings is still intact or better to go storage. So it's, when you go in, you drive a car, you drive the Ford fully limited version with the leather and the heated steering wheel and all that stuff. Hey, let's throw it all in there. Let's start. If we really want this attachment rate to go up, let's start with storage. Let's start with the Span Smart Panel. Let's start with all the things that make sense to quote, and then let's let them dial it back. But to Sid's point, any of these extra peripherals in our markets, unfortunately, add complexity to a deal and add permitting timelines, extended financing timelines, and add downside for the sales reps, which is causing issue with the attachment rate. We really focus on trying to make it so that storage doesn't add a burden. And we only have one grid, and all these batteries can be attached to it to help solve that greater problem of the grid being deprived of upgrades and needing this long-term kind of maintenance. That's the big motion that I'm pushing here at Summit and in the industry in the Northeast specifically. We can segue right into those incentives because I truly believe that out here we have one of the best incentive rich markets for this storage, and we can do what I'm trying to do, which is not add extra ROI for going storage. Think about it. Do you want to shift into the financials a little bit and talk about payback mechanisms, like how we view it, or you want to add anything in there, Spencer or Pat?
Yeah. So I wanted to encapsulate what the two of you just said, and I want to ask a couple questions on it. This is something I know that's near and dear to mine and Pat's heart. But Sid, if I heard you correctly, you basically said this: sales rep, I'm a sales rep, I don't want to lose the deal, right? Because right now my value prop is solar. That's how I get paid, right? That's where I make all my money, right? Solar's tried, true, it's easy. I know how to get it installed. I'm trained on it, right? I understand how to sell it, all of those things. Because I don't understand how to sell batteries as well, because I don't understand the value prop to the consumer as well, because it's not just battery backup. There's arbitrage, there's all kinds of stuff. There's probably 4 or 5 good valve props, depending upon the market, of why you would want to have a battery, right? And because they're not educated in that way, they see this as something that Sid and Thomas are asking them to do, or regulators are asking them to do, but they don't see the value in it. So therefore, because they don't see the value in it, I don't spend the time learning it. And because I don't spend the time learning it, I'm not comfortable pitching it. Is that accurate?
Totally accurate.
Totally accurate. Yeah, this is what we're seeing in the industry. I agree.
So this is where I'm just throwing myself up a softball for me and Pat and also you guys. But what if we switch the valve prop? Because right now we could, if we don't switch the valve prop, what we can do is we can make sure the rep has better training. We can make sure that the rep is better incentivized. We do this and this, and we can do that. And I think it's a good solution. But if you look at Greg McNown's book, Essentialism, he's got good, better, and best in there, right? That's a good way to do it. What's a better way? Or is there a best way? So have we thought about, you guys have probably thought about it. Thomas, you even alluded to it in one of your comments, but what if we change the value prop? So you don't sell solar, you sell battery and you sell a span, for example. You lead with that. And just solar is one of the ways that you charge it. And then also maybe the main vehicle on how you finance it. But really, if we went in and we changed the proposal, when we went in, so I knock on Pat's door and I sit down and I talk to Pat. I'm not talking to him about solar or renewable energy. What I'm talking to him about is time of use, how it powers his Tesla, arbitrage, like battery, all of these different things. And we say, this is why we need it today. We need microgrids because our grid was built in 1950s, like all of this stuff. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, we've got a really cool way. You can power it by yourself if you want to right off the grid. But most people like you are actually doing that with solar. And this is how the benefits, tax credit wise, cost wise, financing wise, all of that kind of stuff. Is that, are you guys?
I love it. And that's how it needs to go in order to really have somebody get like a 90% attachment rate. We're talking, this is generator business, right? The generators installers probably could do this better than all the solar installers because they're out there just cutting in transfer switches and putting in ground mounted stuff. It's one real funny thing is that the battery companies haven't built a generator block where it's just like the same exact thing where it's on a pad outside. Like I would love to see that as far as technology goes, but it's that sale. You're selling home backup to someone and not everybody thinks they need it, but you're securing the ability for rates to be time of use rates in the future, which we mimic California, we mimic some of these places that's coming to Massachusetts, most likely. We even have optional time of use rates in National Grid and Rhode Island. So there's a lot of benefits. Now you're saying, hey, customer, you ever really thought about a generator just in case? And now you have a generator that's going to pay you, right? And now the cost is there where you can prove out that, hey, it's actually cheaper than a generator. And yeah, you got 5 years of incentives, but it's probably going to roll over to 6 to 10. When can a generator make you money? It can't. It doesn't. So you'll not only have all the people in the generator crowds that want to go, you've got all the people with existing solar that want to do it. And then you just got everybody else who hasn't made a decision yet. We use exact logic from Spencer and start with storage and end with charging it with solar.
Guys, that's my idea. No, just kidding. Pat and I, and everybody, we've been talking about that for a year and a half now. Like when we first started talking to battery manufacturers in earnest about some stuff, like getting integrated on the platform, we all started throwing these ideas around, but that's where it's going, right? The battery is the brain of your home. And with combine that with Span or other products like that, Schneider has one, like that's where it's all going. And it's, do we want to be reactive to that or proactive and just get in front of it and change? Because I also think that changes the rap of solar in the industry. Because right now it's just like solar panels, horror story, true ups, this and that.
Yeah.
We change the narrative a little bit. It's almost like a little rebranding where it's like, all right, cool. This is about energy storage. It's about microgrids. It's about this, right? And then solar is just one of the components of that. And it's not solar, it's storage, right? I don't know, Pat,
It's all the things, right? It's then, have you thought about an electric vehicle? Are you going V to home? Are you thinking about just what's next? And everybody who hasn't thought about it, they will stop to think and probably end up doing some research just with the age of information. You really get the gears turning about our goals for electrification. And this is the gateway, right? Adding this MID device to someone's home is probably the way to unlock all of those other potentials that come in the next 10 years.
That's cool. Yeah, I want to build on the tech itself and then we can build into it from there. But I'm at Intersolar Texas right now, and all anyone's talking about is I can't get Powerwall 3s. Do you have any Powerwall? Yeah. I literally heard of a dude who like bought 15 of them and has them in his garage and he's just waiting to sell them for 25 grand.
I thought about that. I used to buy from Sonova, and there was this like cluster of battery purchases. Tesla always had done this in the past where people couldn't get their hands on Powerwall 2, and it's just a weird supply since like my early days with Tesla, and it's true in Tesla character. But we definitely have the same supply issues as everybody, and it's hard to buy. So you just have to teach people that like this is one of the best products, the most desired product in the industry for a reason. So be patient and we're going to install it better and cleaner than anyone else. So don't just jump because someone has one. There's a lot that goes into it just to be a certified installer, but there's a lot to batteries that's about cleanly installing the electrical too. So I don't want to say the technology is everything, right? The end result is not created equal depending on who's doing it. So that Powerwall 3 is a real game changer though.
Yeah.
Well,
So
in your personal, go ahead, ask that question. I was going to ask him, why does he think that? But yeah.
well, I was basically going to say the same thing, but I want to, as you do that, I want you to talk about all the other devices needed for an install and how the meter collar kind of changes that. Because I know there's a lot of excitement around that. But if you, for example, if you want to run, my understanding, and I've been trying to become a fast learner here, but if you want to do like self-consumption in California, that's actually less tech and less switches and less things that you need than if you're doing backup, where you need to create maybe a essential loads panel and do a set. And so it'd be good to maybe understand maybe even the product someone is getting or the tech, how that actually can change the entire install complexity. And yeah, to Spencer's point, like what batteries you guys are excited about and why.
Sure. Yeah, the first thing is the Tesla Powerwall 3 is the first time that a inverter and a battery have made it simpler with less boxes, I think, in the industry. So essentially, we're only mounting 3 boxes on someone's house, which is typically the same amount of boxes that you're doing for a clean solar install. We used to do a disconnect safety switch. We used to do a meter production meter socket. And now we have an inverter and a DC run to the roof. It just so happens to be a big inverter that can go outside. Our challenge in the Northeast was we couldn't put batteries outside due to heat temperature related coefficients and low temps. But now the Powerwall's got a honeycomb kind of integrated heater in it to regulate charging and discharging. So there's no fear of our Powerwalls going outside in the Northeast. So for the first time, the way to look at it is, hey, all the labor that we put into mounting that inverter, we now put into mounting that battery. And now we're just basically changing also the power electronics on the roof. Tesla is a true believer that we should go backwards and just give people production level monitoring and not module level monitoring and module level optimization, because there's 6 MPPTs inside the Powerwall. So it's a wide range of roof planes and individualized azimuth and tilts. But I believe it's a faster install from the full picture, right? Every labor that went from mounting those boxes is now associated with mounting the battery. It's a little extra because the thing's heavy, but now with the backup switch going into a meter collar, it takes you away from our AHJs, one like separate grounds and neutrals when you put in a new first means of disconnect. Depends on which codes you're interpreting in 2023, but that's been a big thing. We have to go rewire somebody's electrical service if we put in an MID with a main breaker and relocate it. So that's mostly for the whole home configuration. But in general, I believe people can do a battery in the same amount of time that they could do a normal solar install now. And that's the game changer, right? Before we'd be like, oh, this battery is going to take an extra 2 days of labor with 2 extra guys and the whole solar team's got to go. But then we have to rework the solar stuff. How do you do it? Battery first, solar first. And then that's not even to talk about the code of what you have to do to put a battery inside a basement or the fire code specifically. Sid, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, those are good points, Thomas. So if you remember in 2018 or 2019, where our focus is to just focus on the essential loads and separate the loads from the main service panel, right? So there's a lot of service work that is required, adds 1 and 2 days for just the battery portion and then do solar. The numbers just shoot off above the roof. But with the Tesla Powerwall 3 that we are talking about, they made it so easy. It's plug and play. But again, don't get me wrong, every solution has pros and cons, right? Like you bring in any product, it has pros and cons, but Tesla Powerwall 3 has way more pros than any other right now in the market, right? The con is availability. You mentioned, Pat, right? The cleaner install. The other day we did one job in Plymouth. Typically, the same size system with another previous technology, we would have spent 3 days to do solar and battery combined. This particular job of a 9 kW system on the roof with Tesla Powerwall 3, that was a 1 day job for us. So we
Yeah.
shaved off literally 2 days of an install from the labor standpoint, and commissioning it was like in less than 30 minutes. We commissioned the system. We spoke with the homeowner. We educated them what to expect, how to navigate in the app. what things to know to monitor on their phone. So they've made it so easy, plug and play. And even though to the next level, like backup switch, I think backup switch was a game changer in the market. Every utility and AJ has different adoption, different understanding, and different interpretation to it. But if you look at the technology and the electrical standpoint, I think Tesla Powerwall 3 right now is dominating the market on the DC coupled system. Also, keep in mind Tesla and DC coupled.
Yeah, there's
So-
a couple other things that are challenges with it, right? So he got into cons. Like guys started listing off pro. One pro is they're so confident that it's a whole home backup with 185 LRA that they really are focused on one Powerwall 3 is whole home backup. Now, some of the cons of that are they got rid of the non-backed up load section in the gateway. So the gateway 3 is now inflexible. So if you have a load that you think is going to crux the system, fail the system, you can't pull it out as easily. You have to do some other creative solutions for it, and they don't have a way to manage loads. So there's still, it's not a one size fits all, but it's also the first battery that has like truly a 60 amp continuous output. So you could combine two of those things in parallel and get 120 amps and then run two simultaneous battery chains off of it. So it's pretty unique in that respect. The real challenge is now your AC footprint with two of them is like 23 kilowatt system design capacity. So your utilities really have to get with the program. Like we have a 10K building block cap exemption in Massachusetts. Anything that goes over, they're now looking at it because it's a hybrid built inverter. That is it solar? Is it battery? What are you guys interconnecting here? Is it 23 kW? And now we're getting transformer upgrades. But they even came up with ways against that with their power control systems and their bus limiting and their panel limits functionality. The best thing about commissioning is I can leave the system on with a zero export mode and walk the customer through when they get PTO and say, hey, just flip this toggle off. Now you're exporting the grid, but they can operate from the day we install, which not a lot of other companies have. Quick plug for Generac, they did have it because there was a Hawaiian market code they had to try and solve for, but that whole zero export functionality is now so easy in the customer's hands. I'm a big raving fan. I could go on for a while, but
Yeah, just to add to that, I know since we're talking about technology stand, I think the new game changer with Tesla is they came up with the expandable unit, the DC expansion unit that they released in earlier plus this year. Essentially, your AC size remains the same, but your capacity tank size, analogy to water tank, your tank size increases, your output is still the same. So the basically the timeline, the period of backing up loads increases. So it favors both the customer and also from the utility standpoint, the AC size don't change, but the usable capacity changes. So the customer can get more advantage, and also from connected solutions, the number of kWh they can export to the grid during the event. So there's so many pros with Tesla right now and very few cons. But I think if the product gets available with the DC expansion unit, I think 2025 would be a super game changer, and you can see how the attachment rate goes up as soon as they're available.
So, Sid, we've got some people that aren't as well versed in batteries that will probably listen to this. So, when you say the backup switch is a game changer, tell it to me like I'm a fifth grader. Why is it a game changer? What does it do?
Yeah, so backup switch basically has an integrated MID in it, or in layman terms, transfers, right? From utility to battery, right? From source, different source, or you can call it as an ATS, automatic transfer switch, even though it's not actually ATS, but does the same functionality, right? Before backup switch, there was a backup gateway, right? Gateway 2, where the grid comes in, backup loads, and then internal panel kit and the non-backup loads, right? There was a lot of service work that was required. I need to now disconnect, reconnect, work with the utility and have a power shutdown and stuff like that. A lot of electrical man hours were required for an electrician to complete that job before. The way it changed with backup switch is now if you use backup switch in the same meter socket where the meter is, and have instead of 4 hours of power outage, like literally 30 minutes of power outage, adding double barrel lugs on the load side and putting back the meter on, it is a super clean install, and we don't have to go inside drilling and rechanging and refeeding the main service panels and stuff. So as far as the timeline goes, that kind of is a game changer with backup switch from installation standpoint.
We've had to get pretty creative on some inline meters and some things because the utility still doesn't allow us to put the backup switch in the meter socket. But once they do, it's going to be even more of a game changer.
So in your guys, sounds like we got some raving Tesla 3 fans here.
We like some other things too.
Oh yeah, it
Yes.
sounds like you guys like got the Kool-Aid. It's in your veins, and I love it.
I'm hearing it from everybody though. That seems to be the
Yeah,
sentiment.
hey, no, I great. Everybody drinking the same Kool-Aid. I'm all for it. My
Yeah,
question to you guys: who's the most comparable to Tesla Powerwall 3?
There's
them?
nobody. Franklin
Nobody on the
Franklin
DC.
Hall Home.
What
You said
about
Franklin?
what about Generac? Their Power Cell 2 coming out. What about the new In-Phase one that's coming out?
10P. Now, unfortunately, they all have their downsides, and Generac should have stuck with a DC building block. I was a raving fan of Generac for many years, and I was their early adopter since Pica. The guys there are the most unbelievable team of people, and they're trying so hard to come back from some major adversity. And I'm so confident that they're going to win with a product at some point. I just feel that the total package for this next launch is not quite there. It's still a little bit behind. It's still not exterior rated, even though these guys are born in Maine. They really need to be getting with their roots again. So like they're developing this great product. I'm sure it's going to be a great product. Similar building blocks, but it's not the same versatility as the Powerwall 3, game changing the labor cost that's associated with going storage, which is like our resources are finite here. Labor is one of the most expensive pieces of the whole puzzle. The Enphase guys, they have a very good product. The 5P was a nice thing. The reason Enphase was really weak, the 10T operation didn't have a high surge capacity, so you could not do a lot of whole home backup before you got a certain number of building blocks, 20 kilowatt hours. And then still, it was weak compared to everybody else for 20 kilowatt hours. So the 5 kilowatt hour building block, super great building block. And now as the costs have started to go down, the Enphase all-in-one situation, if you have an Enphase system with an Enphase battery setup, so expandable. There's the same advantages that the solar system with Enphase micros have, the battery has, because you can quickly add capacity here, left and right. And now they've got a seamless customer experience in one app, right? You're not monitoring in someone else's app, you're doing it. They have connected solutions, calculations right in the back for incentives to show you how many events you participated in. Enphase is definitely up there for one of the most thought out products on the market. Now we just have to make sure that it's competitively priced, because it's still a lot of work to mount 3 enclosures, mount an MID. One special thing about Enphase is they have a line and a load side breaker in the MID, which helps you solve a lot of code violations when I think it's, what is it, Sid, 705.12 and some of all the power devices must have current protections. Those particular things that Enphase has come up with have definitely been a pretty versatile installation. And then Franklin, I'm going to let you talk most about Franklin, but Franklin is a better replacement for Powerwall 2. So anything great about Powerwall 2? The reason why I'm a raving fan about Tesla is because they take the technology, they have their team install it, and then they bulletproof it in the field, and they go through all the headaches before they launch it to the certified installer network, which is us. So Powerwall 2's got an 8-year track record with me, over 200 units installed. I manned an emergency service line. I haven't had a single one fail and only 2 RMAs in that whole run of doing it. Now, Franklin, I'm hesitant about because it just hasn't been deployed for 8 years and run through that same testing. Now, I'm hopeful for it because of its building block, its versatility. And if you talk generator integration, I'm big on generator integration and charging batteries from generators. Franklin and Enphase are really leading the pack when it comes to generator integration. That's a big con of Powerwall 3 or any Powerwall. Tesla just says, we don't like generators, we don't mix with them, lock them out, move them somewhere else. So
yeah, from engineering and field ops perspective, I think to summarize this, I think we're on the same page as for Powerwall 3, Tesla Powerwall 3 as a first option, because to be honest, there's no other DC coupled system that is readily available with the proven track record of what Powerwall 3 has. When now with that's a big statement, but then there's so many factors included like cost, installation, commissioning, service, and then everything combined. I think Tesla Powerwall 3 tops on all the charts.
Customer monitoring too, Sid. Like the only other one that's really comparable, that SolarC is really a hidden gem. SolarC with the Simplify is a DC coupled building
Yeah,
block, 12
SolarC
kW.
is a more on the hybrid side, right? It depends
It
on
is. Yeah.
customer site per site. But if you're talking about true DC coupled, I don't see any competitor with Tesla Powerwall 3 right now. To Powerwall 2 notes, I think we should also talk about like the chemistry of the battery, right? The battery chemistry is super important from safety standpoint. That's why we have so many codes. NFPA 855 talks so much about it. NFPA 1 fire code talks a lot about it. The best thing what I like about Franklin is it is AC coupled. So any add-on system or retrofit storage, Franklin can do all along, right? This battery chemistry is safer compared to Tesla Powerwall 2, which was lithium NMC, nickel manganese cobalt, whereas Franklin is lithium iron phosphate. LFP is more safer than NMC. We all know about that. And also, like recently, we installed and commissioned two Franklin systems. Super easy to install, except the weight of it. Obviously, it was like almost 400 pounds.
450 pounds.
But that's the only technology that I saw. Like on there's a like LED screen on battery that shows you how much the battery is charged. It's a block of 20%. If it is three blue lines, that means it is 60% charged, right? Instead of going into the app and checking stuff, right? So
Yeah.
The as far as Enphase goes, right? So I again, these are all personal. Like I said, every product has pros and cons. But from what I see in the market from engineering and installed standpoint, Powerwall 3, like I said, tops all the charts. The second comes Franklin on the AC coupled.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I
then
have
the
so many
Enphase
questions here.
is good. Okay, go for it.
No, go ahead, Thomas. Finish your talk because it all
That
leads
was
into it.
Sid didn't say anything about Enphase, so I think he hit or miss on it. It's a true
Yeah.
statement. Like no DC coupled solution. Generac was the girl at the dance. They were taking the number 2 spot before they had the Snap RS issue. And everything that Generac was running back then, I just want to say, was similar to Powerwall 3. We're going to DC oversize the crap out of this inverter. Small building block gets through the utility. The storage has a high surge capacity. It's generator friendly with Generac. The DC coupled block is just so good for an interconnection standpoint for capturing extra production scenarios. So one thing that people don't understand is how you can generate more production scenario with DC oversizing with a DC building block. Any bit of that clipping, if you DC oversize, spools off directly into the battery. So if you run in a mode where you discharge at night and you end up with a 0 tank in the morning or like a low tank, you now fill up with all this extra solar generation that would normally be clipped if you were oversized. So you can actually generate more kilowatt hours a year with storage and a proper DC coupled ratio.
Yeah, I
So-
remember Thomas Generac used to have even string level monitoring. So when Powerwall 2 was in the market and Generac kicked in 2018, 2019 after acquiring Pika, they were top of all the charts from battery
We did
standpoint.
200.
PSS.
We did 200 of them. I did 100. Another
exactly.
company, Sid, did 100 here with multiple batteries
Installed
sold.
systems before ATS even showed up. So
Yeah.
remember those before ATS?
Oh
So
yeah, crazy
Generac-
stuff. I installed one on an island off grid that had to get ripped out because it didn't work great. But either way,
It feels like we're talking about an old friend that passed away that we really loved. We're like, oh, remember that? It was so
Yeah,
good.
it was so
And
good.
then they got that new guy, Jerry. He sucks. But we think they're going to get him back, though. The old guy, we're going to get him back someday. But
Yeah.
until then, we're going to hang out with Bob.
We should send this right over to Generac. Don't rip this stuff out about Generac.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Listen, I have so many things I want to jump into this. And Pat, you just jump in and stop me when you think I'm going crazy. So Thomas and Sid, specifically you, Thomas, like you have a very specific opinion and how batteries should be sold, how they should be installed, what's the value prop, why that battery is the best. I have to believe that there's a group of people out there that think that you're off your rocker, just like there's Michigan fans and Ohio State fans, and they both think that it's their team's the truth. So the people that would think that you're off your rocker or wouldn't agree with you or whatever, what would their counter arguments be or their counter thoughts be? I was just curious.
We only got one grid. So their arguments would be that you're slowing down my commissions, you're adding extra costs to my job, you're wrong. These batteries technology only warranty for 10 years. There's no way you can do it for the cost. It's always going to add additional time. It's always going to be low margin work. You can't do it. But when I look at it, I walk towards adversity. And in order to do it, you have to walk into all those challenges and just get better than everybody else. Because people are running away from the challenges right now. And that's just why they're failing or they're not excelling with it. We need to walk head first into these things and just get better than everybody else. Because if we practice it, we make it habit, it's going to get better and easier. And we're just going to separate ourselves from others.
I love that. So basically the idea is we have stayed away as an industry from batteries for the most part because it increased cost, duration, harder to sell, all this communicate, all this other stuff, size, show, battery savings, all of these things that create that friction that we're trying to avoid in a sale. But because it is probably the nucleus, as Nacho Libre would say, of the system now and for everything else in the future, we need to make sure that we can crush it and do it. And so even though it's hard, you guys are running towards it because we have to master it. It's not like there's a choice. No, we need to master it. And by you guys going out and really working hard towards that, you feel like that gives you guys a competitive edge and it also helps the industry as a whole.
It should, yeah. That's accurate.
Cool. So when we were stack ranking the batteries, I heard loud and clear Powerwall 3, best battery. Then it's going to be Franklin over the Powerwall 2. So it'd be Powerwall 3, Franklin, Powerwall 2. Then who's after that? Is that Enphase?
I think I would put Fortress and Solarc because at that point where you have a hybrid solution where you could do AC coupled and DC coupled with a strong inverter, which has way more
potential, yeah.
Storage potential.
I know Solarc like white labels their batteries for other companies. So would all of those other companies still be in that same category of stores, for example?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think so.
Simplify, as long as they have a good surge and a building block, it seems like the Solarc inverter is really the strong thing. So plug in what it is. Now, the downside to that, and the reason why I say Enphase is because of the end customer experience. We're bolting on, if we're going solar and storage with Solarc, a third-party rapid shutdown system. So that's one monitoring solution. We have a Solarc inverter. That's a second monitoring solution. Now we have a CAN bus communication system between the batteries that there are, like stores or Simplify, whoever is bolted on. There's only so many that actually work with their ecosystem. So they sell, the Briggs & Stratton sells a fourth monitoring platform to pull all those other things in. But you need to now go through 4 different things in order to monitor one system. Now, I look at that
as
amazing. Yeah, it sounds really fun. The seamless customer experience is also like the Apple approach, right? We want software to match hardware to be simple. And unfortunately, Simplify does not do that with the Briggs & Stratton and the Solarc. So I do agree. I think it has a place in that whole stack. I would think Enphase is above just that because of the customer and experience.
Okay, so I want to ask a couple questions off of this, Pat. I feel like you have a question you want to ask, but I'm just going to keep going on this real quick.
Well, just time. I want to transition, make sure one thing. We got about 20 minutes probably.
All right, good. So guys, with the Powerwall 3, we've got the inverter built into the Powerwall 3, right? You've got the inverter built into a bunch of different batteries, Q-Home, Lion, maybe even stores. There's a bunch of them now that have the inverters built in, right? So when you don't have to use a SolarEdge inverter or you don't have to use an Enphase inverter right now because it's built into the battery now, how much time and or money does that save in the installation, or does it even affect it at all?
It absolutely does, depending on if there's power electronics on the roof. Now, all those other companies have to have some rapid shutdown device in order to meet code. So if they don't manufacture that rapid shutdown device, put them on the list of now you need this monitoring software, that monitoring software, if it's an optimizer level situation. If it's just an inline rapid shutdown device and it's string level monitoring, then if it's a 1-to-1 device, not a PV hazard control, you're still putting one per panel. So it doesn't save much at all. Realistically, you're just mounting one less box on the ground, which means depending on the height of the battery and how complicated it is, you save a little bit of time and and aesthetically, you only have 1, 2, 3. Now, because Q Home is not outdoor rated or any of that stuff, and I'm not super familiar with stores in the Northeast, it's never going to be a great option for us because you have to put it in a basement and you have to build a fireproof room. And
Yes.
yeah, penetrate the building envelope, run the DC inside, and for all other
Really, for
reasons.
the Northeast, you just have a couple options, really, like that you really even look at, because the other ones, it's just too much of a hassle.
Yeah, Franklin's heated, and so is Tesla. There's really not a lot of other ones. The Simplify one is heated if you put it inside their Briggs and Stratton situation, but there's not a lot.
Our old friend Generac, who we used to love, who is now gone. They used to be great too.
Yeah, they had the outdoor rated cabinet, but again, same thing, rated for outdoor versus operating in an outdoor condition. That kind of, but to put numbers to your question, Spencer, I think if you compare Solar Edge or Enphase with the Powerwall 2 or different integrating these systems for a customer versus doing Powerwall 3 today, there's a significant savings of up to 25%, even sometimes 30% cost savings as far as installation goes, and even the price standpoint for the entire system.
When you cost savings, are we talking about time duration? Or are we talking about, I'm going to save, I was going to be 50 grand and now it's going to be 40 grand. Like what's.
Yeah. So that's the part of the equation where the time saving, labor required, and material saving equates to about 25 to 30% less on the total system cost.
I'm going to repeat this just to make sure I heard this correctly.
Mhm.
If I buy a Tesla Powerwall 3 system from you versus another system, because of speed of installation and less equipment and efficiency in the install and process, it can cost, if the sales rep prices it this way, but it will cost you guys 25% less to do that job. And so there's better margins for you. It's faster and better customer and rep experience. Is that what I just heard?
Yes.
25%. That's crazy.
That's that. Oh yeah.
In the
That's
words
why
of
to Thomas's point, like 90% of ES's attachment rates is absolutely doable with Tesla Powerwall 3. As soon as they're available, I think 2025 year we'll see probably have, I don't know, out of 2,500 to 3,000 installs, we'd probably have over 2,000 jobs.
I know that Elon's a big listener of SolarConnect. Elon, when you're watching this, make sure we can ramp up the Tesla Powerwall 3. We've got a lot of people who need it. If not, I'll just hit you up on X directly. So DM me.
And this show is not for investment advice, but it sounds like we should go buy some more Tesla stock.
Yeah, probably.
So I want to make sure we hit on operating modes and how that ties into savings. So just to give some of the backdrop there, one thing Enerflo has been working on super hard this last year is revising our savings engine to take into account every single hour of the year, because it'll change based on season, whether you're charging, discharging, exporting, importing, and how, especially when you add a battery to that. And so we've had to go super deep on our savings calculations and figure out the best way to do that. And it's interesting, we finished our engine a few months back and we started plugging in scenarios, and we were actually super surprised by the scenarios that came out. And for example, you could add a $12,000 battery in California, and if you run it in self-consumption mode, you'll actually save more money. Even though you're adding $12,000 to the cost of the system, you're actually saving the customer more money over 25 years than if you didn't add a battery at all. And now you think about that, and with the time of use export rates, and you compare that to the import rate, and you start doing the math, and you're like, well, yeah, if I'm only running solar and I'm most expensive time of the day, I'm pulling from the grid, and my import is so much more expensive than my export, then yeah, if I can offset that or load shift that to the battery, and now I'm becoming my own grid, as Thomas, you were talking about, then there can be this huge benefit in saving. Just maybe talk about a little bit about the operating modes of battery. You were even saying potentially changing operating modes throughout the year, maybe depending on season. So I'd love to understand that a little more. And then maybe we can tie that into the customer benefit and also potential incentives or things you guys are seeing in your market.
Sure.
Yeah, the way we understand this and the way we preach it too, right? In New England, as of yet, we don't have time of use rates, right? There is, like Thomas mentioned, there's an optional time of usage that you can register for, but overall, there's a fixed flat rate, right? But there is still an opportunity for the customers to still make full use of it if they keep switching their operating mode. I think the three biggest operating modes that any battery manufacturer or system offers is self-supply, backup mode, and time of use. So now in New England specific time of use, we don't have that. So now we left with two different options: self-supply and clean backup or emergency backup mode. In summer months, as you can, as from in New England, the most of the outages happen during winter months, right? And winter months and then summer months where the solar production is way more than the consumption, regular bell curve as we speak about. We preach on having using self-consumption during summer months. That way the battery can discharge on daily basis, can take use of connected solutions or demand response program or VPP, or there's so many names to it right now. And then for winter months, we preach to change back to the emergency backup mode, where the battery is always charged, ready for discharging as soon as they lose power, right? Because there's no connected solution or very few events, depending on the territory, during winter months. So this not only helps customer to not use grid during summer months, during night period, right? So they can still use battery power during the night and solar during the day, so they see a lot of savings from the utility bill standpoint. And all those credits that they bank, they can use in winter months against their bills where the solar production is low and battery is not discharging. Every time there's a grid outage, the battery is always there ready to shoot in and to back up the load. So this is a model that we at Summit, we preach and we explain and educate our solar guides and the customers for to maximize the savings.
No, that's super interesting. So is every battery set up to do that, where you can switch between modes? And is there extra equipment or boxes you have to install to make sure you can do both?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tesla Powerwall 3, the customer has ability to change that during in their phone app, mobile app, and also with Franklin, same thing they can do. Best thing on these two, they have a storm coming up warning thing. So if they know that there's a storm coming up in, let's say, in next 3 days or 4 days, they can change that mode. So where battery is going to be charged from solar and grid as much as they can, be ready for when the storm hits.
Yeah, storm watch, outage guard, all that stuff. We actually have summer and winter rate changes. It's very small, like they blend the average rate on the bill and things like that. But if you even look at the small Eversource and National Grid rate changes from winter to summer and do a blended energy arbitrage, it's real money. It's 45, $50 here and there. And we're getting into the savings in the vehicles, but in general, it's coming, right? So you can tell a customer now it's not here yet, here's the advantages, but it's going to compound once something true like net metering, NEM 3.0 comes out our way, or Eversource like is still going through the net metering tariff right now. So there is this fear that it is going to change. And then it even gets a little better because we have a lot of municipal electric companies here that they don't pay one-to-one net metering. So that is available right now. If we have to look into the municipalities and how we're banking credit, because it's actually better if you were to fill your battery up in this municipality and store it and provide it to yourself rather than get banked at 4 cents or whatever it would be. And then there's all these other system designs that we get into that are related to capacity and one-to-one net metering and AC system design capacity that batteries can be used in. Simply look at it like, hey, this guy generates 10,000 kilowatt or uses 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. Now divide that into 365 days for a blended kilowatt hour average and just size the storage based on how big of a piggy bank does he need to capture all his solar production in the day, use it for his nighttime consumption, and then be ready to fill it up tomorrow or the next day. So I agree with Sid. Winter time, I typically advise people to operate in a backup float mode because that's when their outages are going to be. I don't trust outage guard and storm watch, although I'm told they operate pretty well to rapidly charge the units. So
Cool. No, that's that's a super interesting point. And also educating the customer that those modes are in their hands and helping them understand how they can best use them. As we talk about modes and savings, how important are local incentives or rebates or other things to help with the battery storage? And are there ones in your guys' region you guys are trying to maximize right now?
yeah, so I think we have probably one of the better just straight incentive markets around. We don't have the NEM 3.0 where just the rate arbitrage alone is going to pay that 25-year payment. But what we have here is a demand response program that started 5 years ago at least, called Connected Solutions. Only the major kind of 5 big batteries are on the Connected Solutions list for demand response deployment. I think they're adding a few more in there, but you got your Teslas, you got your Franklins, you've got your, I think Qcell even made the list, Enphase, et cetera. And what that program does is if you opt in as a homeowner, you basically get to participate in an Eversource or a utility-driven demand response event. So they don't have to fire up another coal plant because they're discharging a fleet of batteries. So if they're 2% over and they need to go fire up a coal plant to shave a peak of 7% extra in the summertime, they're going to try first to initiate this demand response from all the registered battery assets. And what it does is it provides a customer for participating in an event. They don't really have to do anything. They register in their app. Almost $225 per event. There's 52 events, and they say up to $1,500 a year, depending on capacity. So now you're driving that number depending on your battery capacity, and that contributes significantly to your ROI. One of the healthiest programs that's available in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. They have those available 5 years, but they're most likely going into years 6 through 10 as well, once we figure out how they rule on it. The next program that people don't really know about is something called Clean Peak Standard, and how to register battery assets into that program. Now, it's not a lot of money, but Clean Peak Standard allows these assets to go in and become deployed and also get some type of rate arbitrage. So when you're dispatching energy to the grid, even you're participating in Connected Solutions, you're participating in Clean Peak Standard, you're getting like 4x the rate back that you would in a number. So depending on if you're small scale battery, big scale battery, people are deploying 5 megawatt batteries right now in Clean Peak Standard with amazing cash flow over the next 20 years. If you guys haven't heard about it, that's like a new gold rush for sure.
That's super interesting. Maybe to put on the tinfoil hat here, I guess I have to ask here, what do you guys feel like the Trump winning presidency, how do you feel like that might affect storage or solar? What's your outlook based on the political landscape?
Taxes, I think tax incentives may get, refined with a surgical knife. I feel like we are such an industry that helps the economy and the jobs that it would be counterproductive for him to try and reframe anything. And they're always pro-tax and all these things. So I think, we will see some things about bonus depreciation, the more commercial related things. We might see a lot more about American made and American manufacturing contributing to actually getting the IRA and the additional things, so much so that I feel like he might even say, hey, you're not eligible for the 30% unless you get X amount American made. But one of the markets that we didn't really talk about, there's this entire map of what we call grid edge territories. Now, grid edge is something that not a lot of people know about. And what grid edge is, it's like areas of the utility really needs the demand response support, where they're actually paying 1.5 times up to 4 times the value of the energy rate that's being deployed on a level that not a lot of people understand. The big guys understand it, like the guys who are doing big development with Clean Peak Standard. But now places like Connecticut are even offering grid edge lookup tables where you can put in a residential asset and get paid 1.5 times the Connected Solutions rate. So we're in a place where Rhode Island is funding the REF grant, additional $2,000 per battery on top of a $5,000 grant for solar, on top of your regular tax vehicles, your ITCs, et cetera. We are in an incentive-rich market. If we can't make this payback period work, then I don't know who can.
Yeah, no, I think it's super critical to understand what is available locally. I like your point too of helping educate consumers of, hey, today it might be more of a resiliency play, but these time of use rates are probably coming. Look at what other states have done. So if we get this battery live now, in 2-3 years from now, you could change your operating modes to take advantage of it. I like your idea of kind of forecasting and helping the customer look ahead as well. This has been amazing. I've learned a ton and heard a lot of things that I don't know enough about. You feel like there's anything we didn't hit on that you want to make sure we hit on the next 5 to 10 as we wrap up?
I think we did speak about a little bit PCS, but I just wanted to expand that a little bit. So the many utilities right now focusing on export only type of interconnection. So instead of a regular solar plus battery, this like net zero zero impact on the grid type of application that is available, and PCS, which is power control system that has been available using Tesla Powerwall 3, Franklin, and even Enphase. So battery manufacturers, they make it, they're also working with the utilities to make even their simulations and their grid study easier by providing these solutions, right? There's so many things that we can do electronically with electrical stuff where we can, without saturating the grid, because resiliency is a big thing. How can we export limit, and how can we still support the customer and maximize their savings without a negative impact on the grid? So that is a big thing. It's going to be for the next 5-10 years as the grid gets saturated, as the load demand increases. You'll see that PCS, you'll see a lot of new code entering into the electronic side of things of percentage, which California is already using it right now with NEM 3.0. So that's a big win.
To add to that, so just PCS in layman terms is a power control system limit. And the battery manufacturers have brought this to attention to the industry because power control and panel limits allow the current to be throttled when there's no load. So if the house isn't using load, the system will curtail and not export. So utilities now will allow us to avoid an expensive transformer upgrade or a system modification, and it's being widely accepted in our territories. So if people don't know about PCS, they should do some homework and get with the program, because PCS is one of the best things that you have in your Swiss Army knife.
And then I think one more thing to add, nobody talks about the grid security, right? So I think we all understand that we are here in this industry to work with the utilities and not work against them. There is also better understanding of with grid resiliency. I will also try to include grid security as well. Now you have so much of internet and cellular communication, PLC, interconnected to the grid. There's a high chance, there's a big risk of people like hackers can also hack the substations through it, because now there's an open channel. And Pat, as a software engineer, you understand once you have an open channel, there is a lot of least resistance paths in the circuit, and that is one is the grid security, with a lot of systems being tapped on the grid, right? So one thing that I really wish people listening to this think about the grid security standpoint and how secure the grid will be with the systems we tie in.
Yeah, especially to those battery manufacturers that come dime a dozen that aren't really proven without the research and everything. So choose your battery manufacturers wisely.
Awesome. Spencer, you got any last things to hit on?
I got about 80 questions, but we don't have time, so we'll have to do a part 2. No, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us. I love you guys are heavy users, like heavy battery users, and it's great to get this kind of insight. I learned a bunch of stuff. I've taken 2 pages of just notes. That's what I've been doing down here. I haven't been texting. I've been note taking. Some really cool stuff, giving me some ideas on things that we can do to improve our process and our tech to really help the homeowner understand what the value prop is, make the installer's job easier, and give the financiers and also the reps the information they need and experience they need to really make this move forward, because this is the future of renewable energy. Meaning, like, not even the future, it's here, and it is the backbone of everything. And the faster that we can integrate, not even that, retool our process and how we think and how we sell and all of that to that, the more effective that we're going to be, and the better our industry is going to do.
Yeah, I love the idea that we can all help the grid be more resilient by deploying batteries in residential homes. That adds redundancy. Instead of these $2 trillion upgrades to wires and transformers and equipment that's been there since Thomas Jefferson walked the earth, it's like, this is a great way to make it more redundant and empower the homeowner, and everybody should win from that, utilities as well.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson died in 1942. So just
Yeah, my middle name is Jefferson, by the way.
Yeah. Where power lines and transformers went back.
Yeah. Let's get it back to the way it should have been designed. Generate what you need at your house and only use what you can.
Well, thanks so much, guys. You guys are awesome. Appreciate the discussion. Thanks for being a trusted Enerflo partner. Appreciate your business and look forward to having more combos and collaborating on this stuff.
Yeah, great hanging out with you guys. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you so much. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
See ya.